Hello and welcome everyone to PW OnlyIAS English channel. So in this session we are going to study fundamental duties under the Udaan series for Prelims 2025. Fundamental duties, even though they are non-justiciable in nature, nonetheless they sometimes have been asked in the UPSC Civil Services Preliminary Examination. So we will quickly run through all the fundamental duties, the committees around the fundamental duties, the article given in the Constitution which was added later on. Okay, so as we all must be knowing that having fundamental duties in the Constitution is a particular characteristic of socialistic democracies. India initially did not have these fundamental duties in the original Constitution, but later on they were added during the mayhem caused by emergency, so as to enable the government to use these as a tool to drag people to the jails, to put people behind the bars if they are not obeying their fundamental duties. Even though fundamental duties are non-justiciable, the government cannot drag people to the courts for violation of fundamental duties. Still, the government used it as a tool to at least discipline the errands, discipline the rogue elements, the so-called rogue elements of the emergency era, who later on went on to become the great political leaders. So now fundamental duties in Indian Constitution are inspired by the Constitution of erstwhile USSR. There seems to be too much of light on the screen. I hope this helps now. Okay, the Constitution of major democratic countries like USA, Canada, Australia, since these are liberal democracies, in liberal democracies we usually do not have fundamental duties. So point to bear in mind, liberal democracies, no. Okay, socialistic democracies where the government says that all the means of production are owned by the society, are owned by the community, for those countries, for those type of governments which preach socialism as their practice, as their policy, so their having fundamental duties is a kind of generic feature. Now, the Japanese constitution is perhaps the only democratic constitution in the world which contains the list of duties for its citizens. Otherwise, all the major economies, as I said, they do not have it. It is a feature of socialistic countries to give equal importance to fundamental rights as well as fundamental duties. So, typical of socialistic country. So, you should bear this in mind. Hence, the constitution of erstwhile USSR, until its dissolution, or when it got disintegrated, till then it had these duties in its constitution. The erstwhile USSR inspired us to have these duties. Now, how the evolution happened? Sardar Swaran Singh Committee was appointed by the government in 1976 to make recommendations about fundamental duties, the need and the necessity of these duties, okay, which was felt during the operation of emergency, because government did not have any tool in its hands during the emergency to discipline people, to cast a duty upon them to behave in a civil manner. So, salient recommendations, the committee recommended the inclusion of a separate chapter of fundamental duties. This was accepted by the government. The citizen should become conscious. The committee said that the citizen should become conscious that fundamental rights, if they are enjoying, so they have to abide by some fundamental duties also. Okay, they have to perform certain duties as well. Though Swaran Singh Committee suggested the incorporation of 8 fundamental duties in the constitution, but the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, which is called as mini constitution, 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act is called as mini constitution. It was passed in 1976. It included 10 fundamental duties. Okay, since we are talking about this fundamental duties thing, it wouldn't be out of place to also mention, if I ask you a question, I will reveal the answer after some time. Which Amendment Act deleted the right to property? Was it 42nd Amendment Act or some other constitutional amendment act which deleted the right to property from the fundamental rights chapter? So please answer this. Now, the government at the center accepted these recommendations and added part 4A, namely the fundamental duties chapter as a separate chapter was added in part 4a, and this new article 51a was inserted, which for the first time specified a code of 10 fundamental duties for the citizens. It was said that non-inclusion of duties in the original constitution was a mistake on the part of constitution makers. Am I clear? So the government said that it was their mistake. The Constituent Assembly did a blunder, did a mistake by not incorporating them. Okay, so certain recommendations of the committee, Swaran Singh committee, were not accepted. They were, these duties should be binding. Okay, so it said that Parliament may consider giving the force of law, justiciability, that the government can drag citizens to the court if citizens are not behaving. So they said that they should be legally binding upon the citizens, but no, they were not cast. Acha, one more question I would like to ask. Let us make this session enriching. Are fundamental duties available or applicable only to citizens or non-citizens as well? Okay, simple question. Many of you are easily able to answer, but just a brain teaser so as to keep you awake. Parliament may provide for imposition of penalty or punishment as may be considered appropriate for any non-compliance with the fundamental duties. So this is what the committee said. Since the text has been overshadowed by the whiteness of these lights, which are necessary for us to keep the lecture lively or well lit, teacher should look good. Okay, we are in the Kalyug of education, right? So earlier the era was such that the only the quality of education used to matter. Okay, but nowadays alongside quality we have to take care of quality, right? So that is why I will share the PDF well in advance before watching this lecture, or since you have come this far, I think it's 7 minutes into the lecture. Do check out the Telegram channel, the link of which is given in the description box of this video, of this session, and download the PDF. There is a Google Drive link that I have given on the channel. Jatin Verma PW Only IAS is the name of the channel. So you can download the PDF from over there. Before or while continuing this lecture, take a pause and then go there. Taking away the jurisdiction of the courts. Okay, no law imposing such penalty or punishment. Swaran Singh committee even went on to the extent of saying that there will be no judicial review of any law, any fundamental duty, any act enacted under Article 51A to give legal effect to fundamental duties. Even if that law compromises with the fundamental rights, Swaran Singh committee said fundamental duties should be given an upper hand, a status above fundamental rights, and these laws enacting or enforcing fundamental rights shall not be questioned in the courts of law. Government did not accept it, okay, because Indira Gandhi government was on a weak wicket already. Pressure of emergency, criticism of Indira Gandhi herself. So they mustered the courage somehow. They gathered the courage to bring about fundamental duties. That in itself was enough. But now in the present times, you see, economic survey says that it compares our country to China and other countries, that sometimes having too much of democracy, too much of will of people prevail upon the government is also bad. That is why the economic survey says that we are lagging behind because of China, only because of democracy. Though that is an excuse that to hide over the corruption and other malices within the government itself. Nonetheless, if you see, other democracies also, they are performing well. They are not lagging behind like India, right? So economic survey still is saying that somewhere in a tacit manner, implicitly the argument in economic survey is that democracy could be restricted. So the need for fundamental duties is felt again, right? When I will be analyzing this chapter, this topic somewhere for our mains analysis or enriched classes, whenever I will take, I will give you real examples, real life examples as to why do we need some of the fundamental duties. What happened in COVID? We people in India, with due respect, are not very particular about the hygiene. Okay, as the Prime Minister says, we are afflicted or affected by the disease called Mera Kya Mujhe Kya. What is in it for me? What is in budget for me? Otherwise, I won't even listen to the news ever. I mean, people won't even refer to the newspaper. Only till the time you are preparing for the civil services exam, you refer to the newspaper. Otherwise, what is in it for me? Right? Same Swachh Bharat mission. Why do we have to implement a mission for cleanliness? Is it not everyone's individual duty to keep our public toilets clean, to keep our roads clean? We should not litter around, but these things have to be implemented. Okay, so there are pretty many views that I would want to share, but in some other lecture. Right now we are revising for prelims. I will confine myself only to the facts and the relevant part only. List of fundamental duties. Article 51A says it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to abide by the constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag, the national anthem, to cherish and follow the noble ideals that inspired the nation's struggle for freedom. So we should not denigrate or disrespect our freedom fighters. From Bhagat Singh, Nehru, Gandhiji, everybody's ideology has to be respected. Subhash Chandra Bose, Tilak, okay. So every freedom fighters, every aspect of our freedom struggle should be cherished and respected, to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. So we should uphold the unity, even if fight is going on in Manipur or between Kuki, Methi, tribes. That also needs to be negated by the fellow citizens, by the communities themselves, to defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so. If there is a flood or war against country, any citizen could be required to render national service, to promote harmony and spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religion, linguistic and regional or sectional diversities, and to renounce the practices derogatory to the dignity of women. So any practice which is derogatory, which is disrespecting to the dignity of women, should be, that practice should be abolished, or that practice should be renounced, should be given upon. Okay, to value and preserve the rich heritage of the country's composite culture. Composite culture is the culture which evolves with the amalgamation of people from different diversities, people from different languages, different cuisine, different religion, different caste, different color, creed, everything. That culture that emerges when all these communities melt in a country, in a society, like in a melting ball. America is called a melting ball, where every not any long because of not any longer because of Donald Trump, right? So we cannot now say that America is as great as it used to be till Barack Obama. Okay, now to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. So here, people for ethical treatment to animals. Okay, then protecting the natural environment. Recently, a country, South Korea, I think, they are imposing some curbs on overspending, overconsumption, overbuying of clothes to reduce the carbon footprint. We in India, we are only able to ban polythenes as of now to protect the environment. We have to impose bans on our diesel vehicles and the plying in the cities like New Delhi, capital territory, because of pollution. But as citizens, we are doing pretty little to observe these duties, especially the environment one. In the light of rising climate change threat and visible threat, we should do some more about it, to develop scientific temper, humanism, and spirit of inquiry and reform. Okay, then to safeguard public property and to abjure violence. Abjure violence. So, safeguarding public property means you should not torch public buses, you should not burn public buses when protesting for reservation, protesting for your community's rights, or any kind of protest in the country. Okay, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and environment. Last but not the least, to provide opportunities for education. So this was added by Right to Education Act. This is implementing this. This was added by 86th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2002 during Atal Bihari Vajpayee's era. So every parent of a child who is of the age of 16 to 14 years is required to observe this fundamental duty, that the parents should send their child to the school during the school years. Features, some of them are moral duties while others are civic duties. For instance, cherishing the noble ideals of freedom struggle is a moral precept, and respecting the constitution, national flag, national anthem is a civic duty of every citizen. It goes without even saying, citing fundamental duty as a word. It is our inherent duty. It should be inherent in us as the citizens of this country. They refer to such values, duties, they refer to such values which have been a part of Indian tradition, mythology, religions, and practice. In other words, they essentially contain just a codification of tasks integral to the Indian way of life. Unlike some of the fundamental rights which extend to all the persons, whether citizens or foreigners, fundamental duties are confined to citizens only. Like directive principles, fundamental duties are non justiciable. That means I as a citizen cannot go and file a case against any of my students, any of my fellow citizens for non observance of fundamental duties. Okay. Me taking this lecture as a teacher, polity teacher, I'm fulfilling my fundamental duty. But are you fulfilling your fundamental duty by answering whatever little questions am I asking? I am asking through the DNA, daily current affairs, or these things. No. So I should be, had fundamental duties been justiciable, okay, I as a citizen, fellow citizen, can drag you to the court for non-fulfillment of your fundamental duties, your side of the coin, non-reciprocation. Similarly, government cannot drag you as a citizen. Okay, state cannot file a case because these are non-justiciable in nature. Constitution does not provide for their direct enforcement by the courts. Moreover, there is no legal sanction against their violation. However, Parliament is free to enforce them by enacting a law. In fact, some of the fundamental duties mentioned or not mentioned in this chapter have already been declared to be have already been made a punishable offense. Not paying income tax, not filing income tax return. Okay, so this is the analysis part. For the reason that we are revising for prelims, I'm skipping out on this one. Now coming to this part, Article 351, Directive for the Development of Hindi Language. This article is given outside fundamental duties chapter. Okay, so it says that it shall be the duty of union to promote the spread of Hindi language, to develop it. So there are some directive principles which are given outside part 4. And likewise, there are some fundamental duties which are not given in the part 4a but are very much expected to be fulfilled by the citizens. Okay, for example, imposition of ban on diesel vehicles plying on the roads of Delhi, 15 years. The diesel vehicles which are 15 years past their registration, year of registration or year of manufacturing, these vehicles cannot ply on Delhi's roads. The 15 years is the age for petrol vehicles, 10 years is the age for diesel vehicles. Likewise, fundamental duties are not, even if not mentioned, the government can impose them and is imposing them for the sake of better civic life, better collective life of everyone. Fundamental duties are above Article 14 or 19. They help the courts in examining and determining the constitutional validity of a law. For instance, in 1992, Supreme Court ruled that in determining the constitutionality of any law, if the courts find that law in question seeks to give effect to a fundamental duty, the court may consider such law to be reasonable in relation to Article 14 and Article 19. So, fundamental duties can be declared to be above Article 14, right to equality, Article 19, right to freedom of speech and expression. Likewise, there are 6 rights. Okay, so fundamental duties can be held to be above. Not all the fundamental duties are getting the blanket cover of being held above Article 14 or 19. Only if the fundamental duties are so declared by the court. Okay, they are enforceable by law, hence Parliament can provide for their imposition of appropriate penalty. Okay, so this was the question. Supreme Court may decide on a case to case basis. Now, criticism, they are neither fundamental nor duties. They are vague moral precepts, moral prescriptions, they are nothing above that. If you observe them, fine, you feel good yourself, fine. Otherwise, government is not going to say anything to you. Okay, so Verma Committee was appointed on fundamental duties in 1999, just before the democracy completed 50 years of being a republic. NCRWC, National Commission to Review the Working of the Constitution, was appointed in 1998 1999. Around that period, Verma Committee was appointed. It was not Jatin Verma. I'm not into the rebirth avatar of mine. I'm just a teacher here. My recommendations will come in the full-fledged classes that I will be taking for sure. Some of these classes have already been uploaded over here. So this Verma Committee was different. Okay, so another Verma Committee will come through my lectures. We'll talk about that. Okay, so Verma Committee, this one said that RPA provides for disqualification of members of the parliament or state legislature for indulging in corrupt practices. Okay, so on the grounds of religion, etc., etc. Prevention of Insults to National Honor Act. So prevention of insults to national honors, national anthem, national any symbol of national authority should not be insulted. This act also prevents disrespect. So in a way, Verma Committee was saying that some of the provisions that are already implementing these fundamental duties, casting these fundamental duties upon the citizens, are already scattered across various rights. For example, Protection of Civil Rights Act. Earlier it was Untouchability Abolition Act. This also carries a duty that citizens should not be practicing untouchability against one another. Indian Penal Code declares imputations and assertions prejudicial to the national integration. Anybody who is showing hatred towards members of northeastern community, Indian Northeasterners, okay, or any community. For example, in Mumbai, if anybody starts protesting against Biharis or Marathas, if they start preaching jingoism towards or against people from Madras, as they earlier happened, okay, those kind of things are not allowed because they are antithetical to the idea of India as a country. Article 1, India, that is Union of Bharat, okay, single citizenship. Article 5. Okay, so integration, anything that any practice, any speaking, any uh, sloganeering that goes against the idea of national integration has been held to be a punishable offense under IPC. Okay, so this is there. Well, likewise, Wildlife Protection Act, Forest Conservation Act, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, all these acts, directly or indirectly, they are casting a fundamental duties upon all of us. Okay, new additions were proposed by this committee, I mean by Jatin Verma Committee here. Duty to promote cleanliness and prevent pollution. Synergy with Swachh Bharat Mission. Making, there should be no open defecation so that manual scavenging could be eradicated. Okay, no construction of dry toilets. Making voting mandatory. Why only 60% voting in Delhi yesterday? 5th of February I'm talking about. Duty to file income tax return. Can this be not made mandatory? Okay. So duty to, in schools, at least a duty to read newspapers, be aware about the current affairs, right? Duty about having this financial education. We are investing in bitcoins, we are investing in stock market, but we are not aware of them. Duty to protect environment nowadays, and reading environment in 10th and 12th standard is mandatory. Likewise, duty about sexual awareness. Duty to safeguard yourself from menace of drugs. So many such duties could be cast upon citizens, and the best way to impose, rather than imposition, it is better to enable the future citizens by sensitizing them, by so devising the syllabus, so devising the NCERT or CBSE books that everybody is aware and is observing these duties themselves. This was a very small chapter. So next time onwards, we'll begin with the interesting chapters, the detailed chapters of Indian polity for the sake of our prelims. PDF, as I said, you can download and revise things yourself for this particular topic. And next time onwards, next lecture onwards, that will be uploaded tomorrow, we'll be having some detailed discussion on other aspects, right? Other chapters of Indian polity, which will be notified on the Telegram channel, depending upon their percentage of questions, the probability of the questions being asked from those chapters as per the historic data. With that, I take your leave. Thank you. Keep studying, keep rocking, Keep pushing it hard in this last leg of your revision for UPSC Civil Services Prelims 2025. Wish you all the very best. Thank you, guys.